reading you guys this. Man, I can't. No, there we go. Okay, this might be able to work. Yeah. So I have here proof, not just my personal experience, but I'll get into that later, about how women can't seem to take constructive criticism. So I have here this article written on the HuffPost by Lisa Blackwell. Pretty much sums it up on her own personal stories, which you guys can look into that yourself. But we all have, I'll just read you her words more or less. It says, we all have areas in which we need to improve. And one way to help identify these areas is receiving feedback or constructive criticism from others. In her career coaching women, she has quickly learned that if women want input, she has to put a lot of careful thought into how to deliver constructive criticism. So, it's very important to get feedback from others to help you improve so you can get the results you want out of life. Her friend got defensive, saying that she really didn't spend that much time on the phone and brushed off her suggestions, claiming that she didn't have enough time in general. She hesitated to advise her after that, believing that she wouldn't listen. Many women feel that any type of questioning or corrective advice is an attack. This defensiveness based on insecurity can cause a woman to conclude from a small failure that she is inadequate as a whole, eliciting an emotional reaction that often makes sincere people hesitant from advising her. When a person offers feedback, do you automatically start defending yourself instead of listening and asking for clarification? I can't tell you how many times I post a meme and women, it's not even directed to them directly, it's just women just take it personal. They think everything revolves around them. Is it solipsism? Who knows? Kind of leaning towards that, but let's keep going. Do you mentally start listing the flaws of the person offering the criticism? That happens to me a lot. They start pointing out my flaws or shaming me or whatever. Do you quickly think of ways to cut the conversation short or make an excuse to disengage? Do you carry a grudge against the person after receiving the criticism? Do you suspect that the person feels you have more faults to correct that than what they have mentioned? Do you dread receiving feedback from women as opposed to men? If you answered yes to 3 or more of these questions listed below, you may be a woman who has trouble accepting feedback. Got another post for you guys. Well, I want to address this really quick because I make all kinds of videos and I break down bad behavior on both sides, right? There are some crappy human beings out here, right? There is some really crappy men, right? But when I point out the behaviors that are not appropriate for a woman for a long-term relationship, right? When you point these things out, like I got my video on why women are single, okay, or why mental illness is on the rise, things like social media, overusing things like anything that comes out of my mouth is backed up by data and research. And if you don't believe me, look it up yourself. And I constantly harp on that all the time for people to just do their own homework. But it's like whenever I post data, I get this many reactions. But when I post a meme that has a triggering aspect to it, there's a little sprinkled some little truth in there. But I can't tell you how many times I get called names or people will start questioning my mentality, thinking that I'm like insecure or if I'm mentally well. And I'm like, I'm just pointing out the obvious, right? Like, these are things that you should know. Like, your dad should them out to you. They're like, your dad's supposed to be the one that has these tough conversations with you and tells you, hey, this is how the world works. It ain't no sunshine and rainbows, but it is what it is, and this is how you get around that. If you want the best outcome out of life, you might want to take this into consideration. Right? These are the kind of conversations that you have with fathers. But in today's society, where we want to glorify single motherhood, and I'm not saying that single mothers are bad, I'm just saying that we glorify being that this is somehow uh, okay, like we should be striving for, like you should be some autonomous thing that you should just be able to handle being alone and raising children. Like, no, the components of raising children is so important that you need both sides of the parent. Okay, you need two. They say that it takes a village to raise a child. Okay, so having that input from that father figure, that positive male role model, preferably a dad, is extremely important. Because he's the one that's going to set you straight. He's going to be the one that tells you the things that are kind of a little uncomfortable, but they're necessary for you to get ahead in life. You know what I mean? Dad is always going to tell you, hey, you are great out there, but you could try harder. He's the one that's telling you he wants the best for you, but he's going to give you the message in the best way he knows how, and that's straight up, forward, and blunt. You know, I get it all the time that women, they can't even be honest with themselves or their friends because they have to sprinkle a little bit of kindness. They don't want to be too hard because they don't want to trigger their emotions. But like, guess what? The world doesn't work that way. The world is not going to be catered to you and be soft and delicate and for you to hope that that's the world that you want to be in. It's not realistic because the world is cruel, the world is unfair, the world is harsh, the world is mean, and you as a person, you need to adapt, you need to be strong enough to overcome. And if you are not used to constructive criticism, then it's going to be very, very challenging for you. So I'm going to get into the next article here. BostonGlobe.com by Janelle Nanos, and now of course I always link things in the description. But please follow, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Leave a comment. Have a conversation with me. Engage. Tell me where I'm wrong. Engage with me. I want to have this conversation. I want people to be educated. I want people to think about stuff. You know what I mean? Don't just respond with your feelings and just be like, oh my gosh, that's SOB. He said things I didn't like. Okay, why didn't you like it? Why do you think that this bothers you? Have that conversation. Come on, let's talk. Research out of Wesley College in forthcoming study economics looked at how men and women interpreted success and failure in a controlled environment. Researchers gave participants a spatial reasoning test, telling subjects that their scores would be based on two factors: their skill at answering questions and a little bit of luck. Their research found that women repeatedly internalized negative feedback in ways that were detrimental to their success. In the study, the control group didn't receive any feedback. The experiment group received feedback based on their own performance, and chance would include whether the competition performed better or worse. Both groups had a choice. They could get paid based on how many questions they answered correctly, or they could choose whether to challenge their peers tournament style in an attempt to earn a bigger prize. Okay. The researchers found that women who didn't receive feedback, they could accurately assess how well they had done on the test, and if they had higher ability, were more likely to earn enter the competition for the bigger prize. But when women who received feedback learned that their results didn't stack up against their peers, even though luck was a factor in how well they scored, they were more likely to pull themselves out. Men, however, tend to opt for the tournament no matter how they scored or whether their feedback was good or bad. We went one step further with the study. They asked the participants why they believed they earned the scores they did. The findings confirmed economist hypothesis. Men attributed unexpected bad news to bad luck, by women attributed unexpected bad news to ability. When the outcome was bad, the researchers found that women were pessimistic. Women blamed themselves for their low scores, and when women scored well, they didn't pound their chest and hail their attributes. She says, the women tend to attribute positive feedback more to luck. Okay, so quite a bit of information there. But nonetheless, the study confirmed through a controlled group that when women received negative feedback, that they were less likely to compete or engage. Almost like they clammed up. Like when they received negative feedback, like they clammed up, like they didn't want to participate anymore, like it just wasn't for them. And it's like from the beginning, right? I said when I read that feedback is necessary to grow. This is what happens when people, men too, when you don't give them feedback, you don't grow. Okay? Women need this ability to be able to grow, to know, especially when it comes to relationships, how to take constructive criticism, right? Because a lot of my posts tend to be relationship based stuff. Okay? So when I post a meme, when I give advice, when I say something, it's not meant to be taken personally. It's something for somebody to think about. Maybe if I thought about this and went about it a different way, I would get a different result than just going through life thinking that I don't have to improve and I don't have to do anything, that it's just going to come to me if I just manifest it. You know, like, no, that's not how things work. You have to put in work into yourself. If you want the best out of life, you have to put your best effort, right? But it just seems like women tend to internalize all this negative feedback, and I just get insulted or shamed or ridiculed, when all I'm really doing is sharing information. And if it fits you, right, if you think this is about you, it isn't. And I'm just giving a broad general advice that, hey, you want to watch out for these kind of behaviors, because these are not ideal for a positive, good relationship, right? Like if I said stay away from cheating guys, guys who are shady, who have signs of being unfaithful and untrustworthy, you need to stay clear of them. Nobody would say no. But if I said the same thing about women, it's like, what are you against women? Why are you against women? What, maybe there's a reason why she needs to be secretive. I'm like, how cognitive, the cognitive dissonance in a lot of that stuff. Because when I ever post something about men, I get a lot of positive reactions. I get, oh yeah, men need to man up, step up, whatever, blah blah blah, be men, be manly men, all that stuff. But when I say women need to woman up, I don't necessarily say that, but something along those lines. When I say something along those lines, oh, you must hate women. No, I love women, but also they could also do better. Men can do better. Women can do better. We can all improve this degenerate society that we're living in. We need to come together and form families to have a constructive society, right? We need to be able to figure this out. We need to stop being at each other's necks. But if you guys can't take constructive criticism or can't tell when somebody's telling a joke, then we've got a long way to go before we can come together and make this work. But again, it's only going to happen if you guys want it to. All I can do is just show you, offer some information, and then it's up to you guys if it's going to benefit you or not. So, what are we going to do? Personally, I think this stems from lack of male figures in the home. You know, uh, guys not teaching these things, but it also, you got to be the change you want to see in the world too, right? So, I do my best. When I have a conversation with someone, I am as courteous and as polite and as respectful as I can be, even when sometimes they're calling me names and they're making assumptions of me, but they don't know me. They don't know that I'm actually uh, a really good guy, you know. But they just see this persona on the internet and they think that's reality. And the truth is, the internet is not reality. The internet is make believe. You can do things on the internet that you wouldn't do in the real world, right? Like, for example, online dating. It's so much easier just to swipe than actually face rejection in real life. It's so much easier. You avoid getting your feelings hurt online versus somebody rejecting you in the real world. But guess what? It happens. It happens in the real, and this is something that you need to learn. So, with that being said, that's all I got for you guys. Um, Let me know what you think. Comment, like, subscribe.